All righty then. What a day this was today. I don't know what time this is going to load up or when onto the YouTube channel, but my update is I had some superb, most kind, awesome people came on the boat today, originally from here, from the supporters of this channel, and this awesome couple hails from just north of Birmingham, Alabama. My people. Anyways, we went out fishing this morning, had a great time. We caught a lot of smaller ones, and kept a couple of real good ones, lost a couple of good ones, but overall just had a real great time. And they surprised me when they got to the boat this morning with 2 framed drawings. And one, I'll show them right here, right now. You're not going to believe this. Can't wait to share this. But the first one, I just took a quick picture of the framed drawings with my iPhone. I'll try to post up a better photo later on once I get home. I'm on the boat right now. I'm staying here tonight, and I'm gonna go fishing tomorrow, and I am going to do a live fishing day tomorrow by myself. Heads up. Anyway, this kind man, talented man, drew a picture of Ruby, and here's that picture right now. Very cool. And then he presented me with the next framed photo, or framed drawing. Now check this out. He took a picture of me and turned it into a drawing of a Steve Squatch. Oh my God, I laughed. It was so awesome. I'm sure you guys are going to love this, but here you go. Check this out. Unreal. No, that was pretty good. Such super awesome, kind people. Love them. And I'm sure I will be seeing them again in the future without a doubt. Next time I land in Birmingham, I'll be getting a hold of them right away and maybe go out for dinner or something. There you go. Now, moving along. All right. So I'm on the boat solo for the night. I don't know even what time it is right now, but as I sit here and unwind, I'm going to share some voices. They're waiting to be heard. Okay, this email is titled, 2 Massive Beings at 20 Feet. Holy cow. Hey, Steve, do you believe these Sasquatch beings are immortal or immortal beings? In all your world travel and research and seeing one of these damn beings, what's your opinion? I, too, have had an experience seeing them, and I'm curious as well. Well, I don't know. You know what? For me, I always caution people, it doesn't matter what I think or believe. First off, we're all here together, one big family. We are learning from each other. So, for me, at this stage of the game, only going by all of the honest people coming here, which is tens of thousands. I don't know I don't even know what immortal or immortal is right about now, but I do believe that everything is going on today in our reality is a very strong spiritual thing going on, without a doubt. And I do believe that these beings are related to our spiritual existence. And I do believe that they are, what would I even say? They are absolutely skilled. They're not from our dimension full time. I am convinced of that myself. Let's put it that way. They are not here full time. That's what I will say right now. Take from that what you will, or leave it, right? Or fill in the gaps. Now, moving along. My story. Well, he says, who is going to believe a 13-year-old? This sounds familiar. Why is it marked as unread? I'm going to keep going. Who knows? My experience happened with these beings when I was 13, and I'm 37, and still remember that moment. I am an avid hunter and have had that passion since I was born. Luckily, I got the guts to share my story, and I'll believe it till the day I die. I love you, no nonsense, no BS, honest, straight up talking attitude. And long story short, I was at a scout camp. I was at a scout camp out, and it was after dark, and I walked to the cabin where my brother was. The cabin had a big glass pane window with the light on. As I was walking toward the light of the window in the cabin, two massive beings stepped out of the trees onto the two-track road with trees on both sides of the two-track. I immediately crouched down so I could get a better look. And let me remind you that they were 20 feet in front of me. The light of the window between them and me really made their figures stand out, and they were massive. One, I'd guess, 9 feet tall, and the other 7 feet tall. The smaller one was at the biggest one's shoulder height. As I was crouched, they kept walking towards me. I called out my brother's name, thinking it may be him, and they stopped when I said his name and turned into the trees and disappeared. They walked next to a power line pole and into those trees. When they disappeared, I turned tail and I ran back as fast as I would to the other cabin and was silent the rest of the camp trip. I just told everyone I was sick. I still deal with what I saw, and nobody but my family believes what I saw. Seeing two is rare from what I've heard, maybe not. To deal with going back into the woods where these beings live, I took a stress management class in college, and our final exam was to face a fear and go face it and write about it for the final exam. Whether it's skydiving, asking a girl out, etc. So I went to the same spot and spent the night alone. I never said in the exam what I saw, just that I was afraid of being alone in the dark. What I saw. And facing that fear when I slept alone years later helped me to deal with my passion of hunting and still going outdoors alone or with friends. Maybe telling that will help others feel that they can go back and enjoy their passion outdoors. And don't get me wrong, I still have a hard time going hunting and camping alone, but I still do. The two beings I saw, I know they were not human. Without a doubt, I know they were a Sasquatch/Bigfoot. And hopefully my story can reach you and others who have experienced these massive, intriguing beings. Stay safe, and thank you for saying, quote, "You have my back," end quote. You have no idea. For what it's worth, I got your back too. Feel free to use my name. Thanks, Steve. Okay, that does sound familiar, but I don't care. That is a great email. That email should almost be read once a month, as far as I'm concerned. Appreciate you, man. Appreciate you, your bravery and your honesty. Next, and welcome to the club. Now, this sounds really familiar, this one. What's going on here? Why I got so many marked as read, not read in my inbox? Hey, Steve, been listening to your YouTube channel for months. Finally got the courage to message you about one of my many encounters. I'm a young 29-year-old, and I've hunted pretty much, everything you can hunt in the state of Pennsylvania. Now, I read this. I totally read this not too long ago. What is going on, you dumbass? Okay, let's move to the next one. Sorry, guys. Mark this as read. This is titled North Carolina. Hi, Steve. My name is Mary. I grew up on a farm in rural North Carolina. I've been in and out of the woods my whole life, and when I was 8, I got my first gun. I have a CCW in 4 states. I'm no stranger to the outdoors, and when I was around 12, I was just on a walk behind our house on my family's property. I was sitting by a creek, and I heard something walking downstream. I thought it was my dad, but saw quickly that it was not. It was something covered in blackish-brown fur and stood about 6 feet tall. I stood completely still. It caught me staring, and when I looked in its eyes, I dropped down and rolled up into a ball. You know, I've always heard if you come across a bear, that's what you should do. I heard it walking away, but I stayed in that ball for over an hour, maybe more. And when it started getting dark, I decided it was time to go. I got up and ran to my parents' house, which was at least a mile away. My daddy was home when I got there, and I told him what I saw. And he told me they were wood bookers. He told me not to tell a soul what I had seen, and I never did. And at that time, I didn't stop doing things that involved going out alone or hunting, and I really didn't think about it. Now, fast forward to the age of 33. I got my dream job working for the Florida Department of Game and Fish. Whenever they acquire new tracts of land to make it a WMA, they do control hunts to the public. At that time, my job was to manage the area where the hunts were to happen. We had a shed out in the middle of nowhere that would be my office and a four-wheeler, and I weighed and tagged animals, as well as I took samples of blood for each one. This area was on the banks of the St. Johns River. I had a hunter who wasn't out of the area, and it was time to close the gate. And I went to look for them on the four-wheeler. I came to the bank of the river, and standing on the side was the same thing that I saw when I was 12, but much, much bigger. This time I got a good look at it. It had a human face, and it had red hair instead of black, and its hair was matted. I reached for my gun, and when I did, it screamed. It was almost like the roar of a lion. It was so deep and loud. I backed that machine up, and I turned around, and I got the hell out of there. And thank God my hunter was waiting at the shed when I got back. I was almost going to leave him. I shook when writing down the stats of that hog. I never went back to the woods again. I told my dad I didn't want any of the land that I was supposed to inherit because I would never live there. Just because of them, whatever they are. I now live in a very urban area in Florida. About 6 months ago, I started seeing your post about your own experiences and experiences of others. It interests me. I've researched as much as I can without actually being alone in the woods. Something strange is happening around my house at night. Weird noises. My dogs are barking at all hours of the night. Stuff that a year ago wasn't happening. I've even had someone look under my house for the source of the strange noise, and whatever it is, I've never heard it before in my life. I've heard some of the things Scott Carpenter talked about and read up on some of the Nephilim. Maybe that's the reason I never told anyone. Anyway, another reason I didn't say anything was the fact that both times I saw this thing, my hair stood up and I got chills. And that's never happened to me, ever. Keep the stories coming. Thank you for your time. Sincerely, Mary. Mary, double thank you for your time. Absolutely appreciate you emailing us, all right? You know you're not alone. Wow. Another club member. Another club member. All right, this next one is titled Bigfoot from a Non-Believer. I'll mark this as read. Hi, Steve. My name is Dave. Feel free to use my name. And I'll start up by saying I was a non-believer. I've been one of those guys that made fun of a friend who says he's seen a Bigfoot. I live in Arizona, and about 10 years ago, my family and I were camping up north on the Mogollon Rim in the White Mountains. It was approximately 9 p.m., and I started hearing a type of a grunt in the wooded area behind our camp. 30 feet from us, my first thought was a black bear, but then I heard another grunt from about 20 feet to the right, and then another one to the right of there. This kept going on for 15 minutes. I did have my sidearm out, ready to defend my family. I've been a hunter for about 6 years, and I've never heard a bear up close like that, and I'm believing now it wasn't a bear, but maybe a family of Bigfoots. I did shine my flashlight in the areas, but I never seen eyes or anything. I asked my dad what he thought it was, and he said some sort of bird, but I disagree. I've been camping in this area all my life, and I'm 48 years old now. And now my friend, about 7 years ago, was in the same area driving down the 300 road and said he's seen a small Bigfoot or something on two legs run in front of his vehicle. And I've since apologized to him, but I gave him a lot of shit about it. Then I found your videos online and really got me thinking about all the possibilities and the beings that I now believe are out there. Well, I've ranted long enough. Hope you can read this and tell me what you think. Or you may email me back if you would like. Thanks, Dave. Tell you what I think. I don't know what you want me to... You probably know what I think by now if you're still here watching the channel. I think your friend saw what he saw, and I think you heard what you heard, and you know what it was. So it's all going to be on you, what you do with the knowledge that you gain here from all these honest people, right? And go with your gut. Go with your gut. Never have, I just try to tell people, it's like, never give a rat's ass what anybody thinks about any topic. It's up to you. It's your ride. You're on your own ride. It's your own life. And I firmly believe that inside of us, we have all the answers, and you know what I mean? So only listen to yourself. Listen to others. Take from them what you will or leave what they tell you. But ultimately, it's going to be about you in the end, right? It's going to be about you. So, like, I'm just saying, if I see people in the past going, excuse me, okay, Bob Smith, hey, man, what do you think? What do you think? And you look for some kind of reassurance from somebody else or what they might think because you respect them. And whatever they might think, you might jump on board. You know what I mean? But try not to give a rat's ass what anybody thinks. Just go with your gut. Go with your gut and listen to you. Above all. But listen to everybody. But take from everybody what you will or leave it. This next email is titled AL Weirdness or All Weirdness. Is A caps lock AL and then Weirdness. It's title of this email. Hello, Steve. I never considered Sasquatch as a possibility for anything until I had some things happen, which are basically unexplainable, without them being a possible explanation. I have 3 incidents. They could add up to not adding up. I live in north central Alabama. I have a house on a lake and an 88-acre farm 2 miles from the house. We have a horrendous armadillo problem since they migrated up here, and there are no predators for them. They shred everything. I've killed about 250 in the 10 years we've lived here. I've killed 5 in one night. I go out at night, flashlight, and a variety of weapons, and the only good thing, good training with a sidearm, rifle, and shotgun. One night, about 5 years back, I was out shining for them, and I was about 10 yards from a woodbine. I don't even know what a woodbine is. Typo. 10 yards from a wood line. Something just inside the wood line snarled at me so loud, I was instantly scared. I put my light toward the sound, no visual, but I was so messed up I walked home backwards, Glock 19, and light up about 150 yards. I told my wife I was done for the night and blew it off as a wild hog. The next event, close to that same location, it was summer. My wife was out about 50 yards from that spot, and she was picking up downed sticks, putting them in a burn pile we had. It was around midnight. I was around the back of our house. I was fishing in our lake. Came up after about a half an hour to see what she was doing, and she asked me if I heard that woman screaming 2 different times. She was more than concerned. She said it sounded like someone was being murdered. It was from the same area where I heard the snarls the year before. And we decided to see if we could see what's up. We decided that if it was a female in distress, it would be wrong to ignore it. So I went in the house and retrieved my M4 with 31 rounds of steel core 5.56 penetrator rounds. We approached the area of the screams. She lit up with her light, and I had a weapon-mounted light on the area too. She called out toward the sound area. Nothing. No replies. But the foliage was moving like wild on a still night. It spoke to us. It spooked us both. She asked me, what do we do if someone or something comes out? I said, it's taking 30, then we run. Okay, I see what you meant. It's taking 30 rounds, then we run. The foliage finally calmed. We went home, 150 yards, lights and weapon up, super weird. The next event, my farm is 2 miles from our house, and the described events. And one day, about 3 months after the described events, I left around 6 p.m. for home. I arrived back about 8 a.m. the next morning to feed my cows and horses. The land is completely perimeter fenced, cross-fenced, and I moved my animals to a variety of fenced pastures. And I have two pens for isolation of animals that cannot be accessed from any pasture. I noticed one of the pens had the top strand of barbed wire intertwined with the next wire down. I've had deer do this on perimeter fencing often, and I was going to fix the intertwine that morning and attributed the intertwine to deer. When I went to untangle it, the intertwine captured 5 hairs. 4 were about 4 to 5 inches long, and the 5th one was about 10 inches long and had a spider nest ball about 2 inches up the strand. It was impossible for any of my animals to access this tangle. What can tangle a 5-strand barbed wire fence 50 inches high and leave those hairs? It all adds up to something that doesn't add up. Sincerely, David in north central Alabama. And there you go. I think you know what it is, David, don't you? I'm pretty confident you know what it is. It's kind of funny, David. It's going to be a lot of other places. If you reported this too, they'd be like, send us the hairs. Send them now. And if you did or do, I'll guarantee you'll never hear the results. Never. If they did the DNA on them. This next email is titled, Steve, my name is Darren, and I hope this email finds you well. And that's the title. Hello, Steve, my name is Darren. I hope this email finds you well, and I'd like to pass on my sincere condolences for Mr. Macaroni. I know your pain, as we recently lost a dog who was like one of our children. My experience happened here in Daylesford in Victoria, Australia, in about 1984 when I was 13. Every summer we would venture there from Melbourne several times to camp, fish, and catch rabbits using ferrets. We'd go up to a place called Hepburn Springs, which is a natural mineral water aquifer where one would take empty water bottles and fill them to take home. And my experience happened on a 40-plus degrees Celsius day. My best friend and I had asked if we could go fishing on our own while our dads went off to catch their fill of rabbits. And I can't remember as we were strolling off into the bush saying to my friend we had forgotten to take water. Foolishly, we thought, oh well, too far to go back, and we can drink out of the river. And after about an hour or so of hiking into the bush, we found our fishing spot, which was difficult to get to due to the rocky outcrop we had to climb down to get there. The flies and the heat were oppressive. We couldn't drink the water because of the silt in it. And as we know now, the ongoing joke here in Australia is our rivers flow upside down because of the mud and the debris in them. Those are waves hitting the boat, by the way, if you're hearing that weird sound. And after a few hours of fishing with no luck, we decided to call it a day and head back to camp. And we decided to go another way due to the difficulty we'd having climbing up the rocky outcrop, which we'd had so much trouble getting down. And as we were walking through the thick, dry brush, we were suddenly stopped in our tracks by a noise so loud, which reminds me now of the injured T-Rex baby from Jurassic Park. But at the time, it was like nothing we'd ever heard before. My friend looked at me and asked, "Is that a cow?" And I'm like, all the way out here in the bush? Maybe. So we kept walking and soon realized these were cries of anguish. And with every step, it got louder and more terrifying. My heart was pounding out of my chest as the cries were now vibrating through my body. We slowed almost to a crouch crawl, and I remember my stomach being flooded with butterflies. We crept closer until we reached a huge fallen log, and it sounded like it was just on the other side of it. I was so parched I felt like I was going to vomit. My friend dared me to look first, so I stuck my head up slowly and then quickly shot down to squat. My friend says, "What's wrong?" I remember trembling uncontrollably and not being able to tell him what I'd just seen. So he looked for himself, and as he did, it let out a scream again. This time, I lost control of my bodily functions. My friend said to me, "What the F is that?" And I could only speak again, and as I said, I could finally speak again, and I said, "Is it a chimpanzee?" He said it couldn't be all the way out here. My friend began to vomit. I'm sure because of the smell or the humidity. So I slowly worked up the courage to look again, and as I popped my head up, it was looking directly at us. And its leg was stuck under a log, which I think had fallen on it while it was looking for food. It was dark brown, matted furry thing that had a beige, leathery-looking face. Muscular, but wouldn't have been any taller than us, maybe 5 feet tall. I can remember smelling it, and it reminded me of a dead animal, and I also remember it clenching its teeth and growling in my direction. That was when my friend took off and left me for dead. He did, what a prick. I took off running after him, leaving behind my fishing gear. We got back to the rocky outcrop and had no trouble running up it and back to our camp. Steve, I never told anyone this, not even my father, who has since passed. My friend and I have never spoken of it either. My thanks, Steve, for giving us an outlet and a voice to tell our story to. Darren. Hey, man, well, better late than never, right? I'm glad you got it out. Super glad you got it out. Crazy. Crazy, isn't it? The common reaction of never speaking of it again to anybody, especially the person you're with. Welcome to the club, my man. Welcome to the club. This next email is titled Bigfoot Encounter. Bigfoot Story. Hi, Steve. My name is Pete, and I live in the North Woods of Wisconsin. Growing up, my father had built a racetrack and a junkyard in a small town of 3,500 people I grew up in. In 1979, at the age of 12, I took one of the running junk cars from our junkyard out into the country to drive so I wouldn't get caught driving without a license. The car was a small Toyota, full of rust and, well, basically a junker. And roughly 8 miles out of town, the alternator started going out, and I watched my headlights getting dimmer and dimmer until the car eventually died. I'd been there, and it sucked. I was on a rural stretch of county road that had a straight stretch that was approximately 6 miles long. And about halfway down this stretch of road, someone had gotten a hold of an old World War II Quonset metal hut and made a house out of it. They'd also installed a streetlight in the small driveway. So, the Toyota dies, and I exit the vehicle. There's a full moon, however, and it was so cloudy. It was also cloudy, but reminiscent of a scene from a horror movie as I exited the vehicle, and clouds parted, and the moon became a giant radiant ball of light. Almost immediately after I got out of the vehicle, I heard a loud huff, which I could tell came from a giant set of lungs. Having heard this, my hair stood on end and my senses went to high alert. I knew better to run because I knew it would cause whatever predator this was to instinctively chase me, but I ran as fast as I could anyway. And as I was running, my eyes adjusted to the almost daylight-like glow from the moon, and to my horror, on the far right side of this lonely 2-lane country road, I could clearly make out a 2-legged creature, approximately 8 to 10 feet tall, barely walking to keep perfectly in pace with me, running at full speed. This thing had shoulders 4 to 5 feet wide and weighed an estimated 500 to 700 pounds. It was about 11 p.m. yet The moon had the dark night illuminated to the point of it being about what early morning would look like. There was no mistaking what this was. It was a Sasquatch, and I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe it was my rotten luck to chance encounter this thing. I ran for what I estimated was about 15 minutes, and this thing paralleled me the whole time. I was pondering why this thing hadn't yet kept over the road and grabbed my pathetic little ass, and at this point I could see the brow ridge, the high cheekbones, the arms, the fingers, and every feature of this thing except the feet. And I suddenly saw the distant light from the small Quonset hut that somebody had placed as a house roughly a mile up the road. And seeing the light at first seemed like a beacon of hope for me, till suddenly it dawned on me that if this thing was indeed going to grab me, it would do so before I reached that light. To say I was scared was an understatement. I was scared to the point of almost being out of my body. A fear I had never known, and 42 years later have never felt since. Said everybody. So the light, which at first seemed like a relief to me, suddenly became like a timer to my death, because the closer I got, I thought the more likely the chance was that this thing was going to snatch me up. I decided to slow to a fast walk then, and the diplomat in me started talking to this thing in a soft, calming voice, the calmest I could muster. And I prayed and told this thing that I was scared. I just wanted to go home, and I would never mention seeing it to anyone, if it just allowed me to live. True to my word, I kept that promise for 42 years until I started watching your broadcasts. And as I was talking to it for what I would estimate to be about 10 minutes, it would grunt and make sounds that sounded like, ooh, ah, yee. I clearly saw this thing for a total of 30 minutes at least. And when I was within 2 blocks of the streetlight of the Quonset hut, I kicked it in high gear and ran to the door and pounded for all I was worth. The creature crashed through the woods, and it sounded like a freight train breaking trees as it made its escape. And as what luck would have it, there was nobody home, but I made use of the '74 Chevy pickup parked in the driveway and drove back to town. No shit. Several days later, myself and a couple friends went back to the area, but I never told them why we were there. I just told them, let's go check out the woods. And after all that crashing, I expected to find a mess of uprooted trees, but found not one sign of it ever being there. Okay, there's my story. Use it if you feel or don't. Dig your channel and envy you, buddy. Thanks for all you do. All right, of course I'm going to use it. I don't pick and choose unless it's somebody that's nasty. And there you go. Another one. Another member of the club, right? I appreciate you, man. I'm glad we got to get you heard. But anyway, there you go. I don't even know how long I did this, but I'm going to have to eat some food and crawl in bed. I'm going to get up at 5 o'clock, and I'm going to go to a certain place, and I'm going to throw the anchor out, put the Starlink out, get the gear out, and I'm going to do my second attempt at broadcasting live fishing on YouTube. So, be there or be square in the morning, you guys. And keep sending in your truth to share my story at howtohunt.com, all right? I'll be back later.
What is that? Yeah, Bobby.